Yeah,
I can't.
Except me because I've been cut already. I like cards.
Nobody.
I can see his
Bummer. I know. We should.
Make sure I sign one anyway. I'll sign.
Pittman, has got something special. I think he's got. Welcome, guys. It's the Gridiron Gurus, presented by Famisphere. My name's Keith. I'm joined by Jesse. And guys, it's week 5 of the college football, and last week was a really good week. Some odd scores. I especially want to talk about the Notre Dame game from last week. I can't remember Wisconsin. They played Wisconsin,
yeah.
And the score was like 41-14 or something was the final score. But the score doesn't tell the true tale of how the game really went.
No.
But other than that, there's a couple other games that we want to talk about. But just going ahead and going right into it is the Notre Dame game. Like I said, the final score, and I can't remember the exact score, but it was like 41-13 or 14, maybe 17. And when you see that, especially if you didn't watch the game, you're thinking, oh man, Notre Dame just blows out Wisconsin. It's not a game. It's Wisconsin's for real. But then you actually look at the tape, and the tape says that Notre Dame was in a dogfight for 3 quarters. Returns the opening kickoff in the 4th, then gets a pick 6, and then another 3 and out. Scores real quick again, and it's just like the floodgates opened on Wisconsin, and they just get washed out. And I think maybe Notre Dame made a quarterback change at some point.
They did, and you were right on that score. It's 41-13.
Okay,
I think it's what you said. 41-13.
I was in the range.
Jack Coan, is that how you say it? Coan?
I think so.
Who actually transferred from Wisconsin. He's playing his old team. He went out with it looked like a ankle or foot injury.
Mm-hmm.
He went out and instepped a freshman who I believe that was his first time taking snaps in a game. I'm sorry, I say freshman. He may have actually been a sophomore now that I think about this. But he stepped in for his first snaps of the year, and Drew Pine, I think is how you say his name. He looked better than Jack Coan. Like the offense moved so much better and meshed so much better when he stepped in. Which you see it all the time when a guy gets hurt. You practice all week for one guy, then a guy gets hurt, or they make a change or something. They bring in a different guy who has a different type of play style.
Right.
Changes your entire defensive play calling. Changes everything about your offense. How the offense is gonna fit. So you see it a lot of times with but he looked better. In my opinion, he looked better than Jack.
And I'm not sure exactly, but when did the injury happen? Was it right around the time of the third quarter was ending, or was it before that?
I can't remember exactly right offhand. I do believe it happened in the second half. I could be wrong,
right.
But I think it was early in the third quarter. I think.
I don't remember, but
I watched that game, but I cannot remember. But I believe it was early in the third quarter.
Well, and why I ask that is, if a quarterback's looking great, but if the other team is completely reeling and pushing, and your defense scores, your special team score, and then all of a sudden you're able to play with a lead, and you can, the passing lanes open up a little more because they're worried about the run and things like that. So a quarterback can look really good whenever the other team is completely reeling on both sides of the ball.
Right.
So,
It was a hard fought, defensive game up to that point.
I think I actually texted you and I was like, "Wow, well, look at the Notre Dame score," because I actually didn't see it. I was watching the Clemson North Carolina game, or NC State game,
right?
And you was like, "Well, you need to watch the highlights." And so I went back and actually watched, the highlights and the just not really the whole game, but the majority of it. And I was thinking, man, Wisconsin actually gave Notre Dame every ounce of what they wanted, and like I said, the floodgates opened up for Wisconsin or for Notre Dame and onto Wisconsin.
Right. And actually, if you look at the box score of that game, Notre Dame put up 31 points just in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Just in the fourth quarter.
I think it was like 13 all, or
I think it was 13-10.
At the start of the third quarter.
And it was, I think Wisconsin actually was up at the start of the fourth quarter.
I think you're right.
And then a quick change, that kick return happened. And then next possession, pick 6, and then it was a landslide from that point.
It's Sally barred the door because it was over in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I mean, we talk about within 3. You talk about kickoff, pick 6, 3 and out, and score. That's a 21-point swing just right off the gate. You go from being down 3 to being up by 18.
And again, that changes your play calling too, because you go from being able to run the ball and
Establish dominance.
right, and just kind of work the clock and just play field position to, okay, well, now we're behind on the scoreboard, and we're going to have to start trying to get this ball downfield vertically. And so
it's hard to change your mindset mid game.
Yeah, and especially for Wisconsin, for a team that's typically 3 yards in a cloud of dust football.
Absolutely.
For them to have to shift to just quick.
Yeah, we've got to get the ball down the field.
Yeah,
yesterday.
That's tough. That's tough.
It is tough. Another team that I am just absolutely amazed by is Arkansas.
No.
And people are talking about Arkansas being for real, and they've got a real tough matchup this week. It's going to be able to tell. We're going to get into that with our picks and talk about it, but honestly, I don't think they're going to win. But what I want to see out of Arkansas is, can you keep the game close? How are you going to be able to handle the kind of success that comes with a turnaround like they've made in the past 2-3 years? They're going from a bottom dweller, not just in the SEC, but in the entire nation, to, dominating every opponent that you've played so far.
Right. I tell you what. I'll tell you one thing is for real. KJ Jefferson is for real.
Yes, he is for real.
And I think they do win. I may be crazy. People may say I'm just on some kind of bandwagon, but I think they win because I think that they have the defense. I think they have the offense. Now, granted, Georgia has the better defense, but I think Arkansas has a good enough defense to stop an offense that's already pretty stagnant as it is. And
right.
I think Arkansas has a good enough offense to make a play somewhere down the stretch on Georgia's defense. Now, do I think it happens early? Do I think they show dominance like they did against A&M, like they did against Texas? No. This is by far the best team they've played all year.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there's no question
absolutely.
to that.
I think they exposed both Texas and Texas A&M for what they really are, as being a weak defensive team.
It's a little hyped up a little bit. Yeah.
Right. A little bit overhyped, just like you said. But I have questions about Arkansas. Can they run the ball? Like you said, KJ Jefferson is for real. I think the entire offensive line is for real. I think their defense is a little bit underrated. But can they establish what they have done in the past to these other teams against a solid Georgia defense? That's what I want to know. And they might. You might be right. They might be able to move the ball and play field position and get a chance to score and either take a field goal or make a big play against this Georgia defense.
That's what I think. It comes down to a field goal. I think it's a field goal ball game.
I do too.
I think Arkansas wins it by 3 late on a late fourth quarter drive, and then the defense holds out. That's my prediction.
Right. Well, my prediction is Georgia's going to win by probably 9. That's just kind of how I see it going. Which, and to be honest, for an Arkansas team, if you can keep the game within 2 possessions, to me that's a win. That shows that you are prepared and that you are ready to take that next step into being a consistent top 10 team for Sam Pittman.
Right.
But what, for me, the best outlook I can have for Arkansas outside of just outright winning the game is having a chance being down by, let's say, 4 or 5 points, getting the ball back with about 2 minutes left, and having a chance to go down and score and win the game. That's where I can see that game going that way. But I can also see Georgia just, winning by 7 or 9 points within 2 scores. I don't even know the line on that game, just to be honest.
I can pull it up while we're talking. I want to know though, what do they do with, what do they do about KJ Jefferson?
Right.
What kind of stuff are they gonna dial up to, try to get some pressure on him, and what are they gonna do about that passing game too? Because they're not just they're a very good rushing team.
They are a very good rushing
team. But they have a receiver that is a NFL receiver. And I'm not kidding.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Is it Traylon Burks? Is that his name?
It is Burks. I don't
Burks.
know.
6'3", 225. He's a junior.
Right.
That guy is unreal. He is an NFL-ready receiver right now.
And what Georgia does really well is, like you said, they rush the ball real well. And Sam Pittman is a former offensive line coach, So what he likes to do is, you have two thoughts of football. You're inside out or outside in. Are you going to run the ball to set up the pass, or
Right.
pass to set up the run?
Right.
And he is very much, I'm going to run it at you,
Yes.
and then I'm going to come off of that with play action, get my
Yep.
quarterback mobile, and then I'm going to beat you with his arm.
Yeah.
And he's got a receiver to do that. Now, again, he's seeing cornerbacks that he's not seen before.
Right. That's true.
Corners that and some linebackers that flow extremely well,
Yep.
that can cover or even get downhill to make a play on the quarterback. But it's going to be interesting. I'm really interested to see if Arkansas can answer the bell.
I am too. I really think they can, but the thing is, like, if they get this win this week, where does it go from there? Because I know the fan base is thinking, they're probably already thinking SEC title or bust right about now. If I was in their shoes as a Tennessee fan, that's what I would be thinking.
No, I don't think so. I think Arkansas fans are what a lot of Tennessee fans would be if the tables were turned.
Right.
Is I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah.
You're invited to the big house, and you're like, hey, I'm just glad to be here.
Right.
Now that might change, especially if they can continue success.
Right.
That idea might change in the next couple of years for Arkansas fans. Like
Yep.
you're saying, if Tennessee was there and we've been there for a couple of years, you're thinking, okay, take the next step.
Yeah.
Take the next step. Get to the SEC title game.
I just want to know how they can sustain though, because their schedule is tough. They've
It
not
is
even
tough.
hit. They've not even hit the meat of their schedule yet.
No, and
They're
and-
playing Georgia, and then they still have LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss,
Mhm.
all left to go.
Right, and that's my thing is if they answer the bell this week, then I'll feel more comfortable picking them against LSU. I
Yeah.
probably will anyways, but I'll feel a lot more comfortable if they have a close game with.
Right.
Now Alabama's a different beast. We'll
Yeah.
cross that bridge when we get there. But then you talk about Ole Miss. If they keep it tight with Georgia, I wouldn't mind picking them to beat Ole Miss down the road.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they have to win the game or you just blow them out or whatever.
Right.
I mean, if they do, I'll feel real comfortable picking them against Ole Miss. But if they keep it close, if that defense can do what they need to against a stagnant offense and
Right.
move the ball against a good defense, Ole Miss isn't known for defense. They're not a defensive team.
Yeah.
So when they go up against a high-powered offense, I'll be like, well, their defense might surrender some points, but I know Arkansas is going to control clock, and they
Right.
are going to score.
Right.
So this week is very interesting for me in that regard. I'm going to move on, and the joke that I've seen a lot with Auburn is, hey, Auburn beat Georgia. Auburn beat Georgia, and then, it's Auburn beat Georgia State. Auburn beat Georgia State. They survived. They should have lost that game.
How many
Um,
Tennessee fans were sitting there watching that game thinking, yes, finally, somebody can take that off
Finally.
of our back a little bit.
Exactly. Short memory there. Oh, you lost to Georgia State. You have no reason to say anything to Tennessee fans.
Yeah, but
But they came back. They did what they needed to and won the game. But how much are they missing Gus Malzahn at this point?
that was my thing the entire time.
Right.
And there is a former offense coordinator, the offense coordinator for Tommy Tuberville. He has he has a podcast, and on his podcast he was just bashing Harsin, and was just talking about how bad of a hire it was, and my entire thought when watching this, and then I read the article afterwards, and I'm thinking, what are Auburn fans thinking right now? Because they wanted him out so bad.
Yeah.
The program wanted him out so bad, and you get rid of the guy, and then here you are. They were, what, a minute and a half away? Or was there even that much time left? They scored late, like with hardly any time, right?
A minute and a half might be a little too long, but it was right in that range.
Okay, so about a minute, somewhere around a minute. They were a minute away from losing to Georgia State,
Yeah.
and you're 1 year removed from.
I think Georgia State was up 24-19, something like that, with about a minute and a half left. Yeah, you're right.
And I'm just, and another thing,
They was up by more than one possession, or more
Auburn-
than a field goal.
he made some good points. The only bright spot that Auburn had on Saturday was the receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who got fired the Sunday after the game? The receivers coach.
I did not.
I
know
don't
that.
understand the move. And guess who the offensive line coach is down there in Auburn?
I have
You
no
know
idea.
the guy. We all know the guy at Tennessee. Will Friend.
Really?
Will Friends is offensive line coach down there. Guess which unit played the worst?
The
offensive line.
The offensive line,
The
without a
offensive
doubt.
line.
Without a doubt.
He still has a job. I don't know. Auburn.
Well, and that's one.
How they're still ranked? Like I'm looking at this right now, and they're ranked 22.
Are they 2-2? Is that right?
They're 3-1, but I don't know that I mean.
Do you have? They're ranked at what, 22?
They're ranked at 22.
And who's 23?
But you're just telling me. I'm not sure who 23 is,
Oh, okay.
but you were just
Ranked
telling me
above.
about Clemson. Yes, they're 2-2. Yes, they lost to NC State, but you were just telling me about how they are 25. They go from 9 to 25 after a loss to NC State,
Right.
and
And the only other loss they have is to Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia,
Now,
not
granted,
Georgia State.
Auburn's loss is to Penn State. Now, Penn State looks good. I give them that.
Yeah,
but-
that's a quality loss if you can have
But
a
they
quality loss.
struggled to get past Georgia State.
Right.
I mean, I don't understand, which I guess they're
Well,
just keeping that there.
Here's my question. Here's my question about that. Is a struggle win over Georgia State more impressive than a struggled loss for Clemson at NC State?
I guess a win is better than a loss any day. Well,
But
when it comes to two unranked, actually no.
That's exactly my point.
NC State is a more quality opponent than Georgia State.
Exactly. I would take the loss to NC State over a struggle win, and I mean struggle win in every sense of the word, because it came down, like you said, to the last
they shoulda got beat.
minute of the game
Yeah.
to beat a Georgia State program. You know, when Tennessee beat Appalachia State,
Yeah.
and I think 15 or 16, and it was a struggle win.
Yeah.
I would have rather them lost to a, and I don't know, I wouldn't say ETSU, but Bowling Green. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
so at least somebody a little more. I don't know.
I don't know. Bowling Green's a little bit too
Yeah,
low,
it's a little-
too small.
you should pick
Louisville.
Okay. Yeah.
I would rather
could
them.
take that.
I would rather
That
them
would-
had a close game and lost to Louisville
Yeah.
than barely squeaked by App State. If that makes sense, Auburn beating Georgia State, even if it's a win, it's very disappointing. Versus a Clemson team who we all know is struggling, especially at the quarterback position. Clemson's loss to NC State is a little more impressive than a struggle win.
I don't know if impressive is the word, but it's,
when you compare-
it's easier to digest, I guess.
It's
You know.
it's like eating a bruised banana.
Yeah.
You know, that's my thing. It's easier to digest
Yeah.
than the win over Georgia State, I guess.
I'd probably agree with that.
Okay.
Honestly, I think I would agree with that.
We're gonna stick with that. We're gonna stick with Clemson and NC State over Clemson, and them dropping to 25, which to me is absolutely mind blowing. They went from the number 9 ranked team in the nation,
That's crazy.
and they had a struggle win over.
I get that they lost to NC State.
Right.
I get that they lost at NC State, but I still think that's crazy to jump that far. I mean, that's
Who else
just
did they-
crazy.
Who else did they play? Because they had a very struggled win over.
Wasn't Georgia Tech, was it?
I believe it was. I think it was a 14-8 ball game over Georgia Tech. You're right.
Okay.
I'm not even going to look it up.
Yeah.
It was Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech has looked, since then, pretty good. Not great, but fairly decent.
They gave North Carolina everything they wanted.
Everything that they wanted. But that's not saying much about North Carolina either. North Carolina's struggling.
struggles. Well, that's one thing.
Um,
That's what we mentioned, last week, is that this is kind of I think a little bit of a 2007-ish type of year.
Right.
Remember 2007 when everybody was getting beat? Like there were upsets left and right.
Right.
And
I think 2007 was the year that Michigan lost to Appalachian State, just to be honest.
it was actually. But like everybody was getting beat, and nobody really seemed very dominant. There wasn't
Right.
a clear-cut favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a weird. I call it a weird year in college football. But I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and actually, I'm gonna throw it out. He watches the show, so Austin Chambers. We were talking about this the other day, and isn't it more exciting going into a college football game
Right.
and not knowing who's going to win the game?
Right.
Like, isn't it more exciting? It kind of has like
Well,
an NFL type of feel, because NFL you cannot sit and predict the NFL.
Right. Well,
You
any
cannot-
given Sunday. That's where the term comes from. Any given
And-
Sunday, anybody can lose to anybody.
Yeah, and that's the honest truth. Like
Right.
I mean, you can try, but you 9 times out of 10 you won't get a
Right.
perfect pick on Sunday.
Right.
But college football the last few years has been,
Very predictable.
you walk into a season and you already have the 4 teams in the playoffs.
You know that we know the top 3. You know Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama are going to be in the playoffs, and you're wondering
Probably Oklahoma.
is Oklahoma going to be there? Is there somebody like Iowa State that made a push a couple years ago, or whoever? Who's going to get that?
Oregon.
Or in Oregon, somebody else is going to make a push for that, or Georgia for that last seed. But you knew that the top 3 were going to be Alabama, it's going to be Clemson, it was going to be Ohio State.
Yeah,
And it was very monotonous. It was very boring. And this year has just been the complete opposite. And I think
it's
it makes
exciting.
it exciting.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
it
I think it makes it exciting. Because you talk about comparing it to the NFL, and I think it was the Giants last time that they made a run for the Super Bowl with Eli Manning. I think they got in as a wild card at 8-8. They won the NFC East at 8-8 and ended up winning the Super Bowl. I think it was the last time. It was one of the times that the Giants won.
You know what one of those years was? 2007.
Right.
2007 was one. The
Well,
first
that was the
one
year
was 2007.
That was the year of the Patriots going 17-0.
Yeah, and they upset them. They beat them. They snuck in as a wild card that year.
That might have been the year I'm thinking about. They got in as an 8-8,
yeah,
and then just went on a tear. I mean, Elliott Manning turned into Eli Manning in the playoffs. That was one of the the Eli jokes that has been thrown around. But with Clemson losing and dropping as far as they did, do you see any way the ACC gets a team into the playoffs?
No, I really don't. And I
don't
think
either.
it's sad, but I really don't. And here's my reason why. I think that I think North Carolina, and I hate even saying this because I think the world of Coach Brown and Coach Woods and everything they got going over there.
Right.
But I think that they have already played themselves out of the contest, out of a potential berth.
Right.
Even if now I'm not saying they're out of the ACC title game, I think that they can still compete for that. I do. I really honestly do.
Oh yeah, I do
But
too.
the thing is, they're at 2 losses. Clemson's at 2 losses. I think in order for Clemson to win it, they would have to win out, and I honestly don't know that that's possible.
I don't think so either.
But they don't control their own destiny even at that. Though I think they would have to win out, and I think other teams would have to get beat somewhere down the line.
Right.
My prediction is that because you have a pretty competitive SEC, Big Ten, Pac-12 even, and
Right.
Big 12. I think those are your 4. I think there's going to be a Pac-12, SEC, Big Ten, and Big 12 team in the 4-team playoff. That's what I think. I think this is the year the ACC's out.
Say that one more time. I missed that.
SEC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12. That's who I think that the 4 are.
Do you know what I think is going to happen?
Do you think this is the year of a group of 5?
No, I don't think it's a group of 5. I think you're going to have 2 SEC teams. It's going to be Alabama, I believe. And then you're going to have Georgia, Florida. That's going to get the 2 seed. Or no, it would have to be Georgia. Georgia would get the other 2 through 4, somewhere in that range. Because I think they're going to lose to Alabama in the SEC title. They'll beat Florida. And then
I'm tossing around on that, but keep
right.
going.
But that's where I see it happening. They'll come in as the 4 seed with 1 loss to Alabama. Then you have, I think Notre Dame somewhere down the line gets beat. You'll have Oklahoma represented from the Big 12.
Yeah.
And then you'll have Oregon from the Pac-12. So you have two SECs.
So you think the Big Ten gets left out?
Yeah, I think Big Ten gets left out.
So, oh wow, that's
because
I Penn State or Michigan, either one.
Well, I think that Penn
crazy to say Michigan. Let me back that up. Ohio State or Penn State can't.
Well, here's my thing is, and we've talked about it before with Jim Harbaugh. I think he is so pushed to beat Ohio State. He does beat them at the end of the year, but Michigan will beat Penn State. Or Penn State will beat Michigan, so that leaves them out.
Yeah.
But then I think Penn State somewhere loses down the line too.
Okay,
somewhere and gets upset.
Well, so Michigan's sitting they're undefeated right now, which
right.
I don't think that stays that way for long.
I think Penn State beats them.
But let's say Michigan runs the table and their 1 loss is to a very good Penn State team, who has 1 loss, 2 losses, whatever the case is.
Right.
Michigan beats Ohio State, wins the Big Ten. You still don't think that they make it in with a 1 loss and a win over Ohio State and a Big Ten title?
Possibly.
I think it'd be hard to keep them out.
It would be hard to keep them out, and if that happens,
Here's the thing.
Jim Harbaugh might get a big contract extension.
Sorry, Michigan fans. But here's the thing, though.
I don't think they would mind if he's in the playoffs. I really don't.
Here's the thing. This is the year, more so than any year, I think this is the year that a conference championship plays a big factor in the playoff.
See, I hadn't really even put together the.
I think Notre Dame should lift themselves in the ACC conference because if they stay,
they would have had. I see what
they have a better argument.
Right.
They have a much better argument.
Oh, I agree.
And now, granted,
I
this game this weekend against Cincinnati is going to be huge in building their resume.
Absolutely.
But
I could see that. I haven't really thought about Michigan, Michigan or Penn State. I don't think Ohio State's getting there. But if they get there, and Georgia loses in the SEC title game to Alabama, or even let's say this, let's throw this out there. What if Georgia beats Alabama?
See, that's kind of.
What if that happens?
I think we get a crazy scenario. I think that Alabama does get beat this season. Before the national championship, I think they get beat somewhere down the line.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be in the regular season. I don't know. I feel like somebody's going to trip them up or give them a tough test. But I really could see Georgia beating them in the SEC title game. Now the rest of this half of the schedule is going to be the true tale. But I could really see it. I really could.
Right. I could see, what if Ole Miss beats them this weekend? And really throws a wrench into it. And Ole Miss, and it's Ole Miss versus Georgia.
The only thing with Ole Miss is that they're going to have to play some defense because Alabama, they're not last year's offense, obviously.
Right.
But they have weapons. Bryce Young is a pretty good athlete. He can get the ball in their hands. John Mechie is a receiver.
Is part of that crew that's came through the past 2 years from Alabama.
Yeah.
You talk about Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, Gary Judy.
He's about to be another first-round draft pick.
He's been part of that group and been contributing even with those other guys there.
So I just think that they're going to have to play some defense. Now, I think the Ole Miss's offense can put some points up. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
I think they can move the ball, but it's going to come down to playing defense, and I don't know that Ole Miss can play defense.
It'll be interesting. We're going to get into that game in just a minute. Anyway, so we're going to move on. We're already at the 30-minute mark, so we're going to move on to our picks. We've got this week, but this week is full of nothing but our picks anyway, so we're just going to go ahead and
I got to get back on track. I'm one behind right now because of that stupid Florida State pick. I'm so mad. Do
you want to talk about last week's picks? Just real quick. I don't know that I have that. Well, let's talk about that one game because you and I were right there together, and that was the one. I think we each had 3 losses, and you took a 4th loss with the. I told you it was going to happen, and I think they won by.
There was the thing that kills me. Okay, the thing that kills me is the defense gave them every opportunity.
Right,
they had the ball. I'd love to see the time of possession in that ball game because I believe Florida State had the ball more than Louisville did.
I think so.
I swear I think they did. And the defense gave them opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And every time they would force a 3 and out, be like, okay, this is it. They're gonna move the ball down the field here. And it was just just shooting themselves in the foot. They get up a hold here, a offsides call here, whatever. And then just could not move the ball. The running game looked really great at times, and then they would try to throw a ball and throw a pick or something stupid.
It's one of those things where you shoot yourself in the foot, you really reload the gun and shoot your other foot, and then you reload the gun and you shoot your first foot again.
Yeah,
it was just you couldn't get out of your own way.
But we were pretty much the same on all the picks except Florida State and Louisville. You picked Louisville. And then Stanford, UCLA, I took Stanford because I really thought, this is the week. UCLA looked good. Then you took A&M, and I took Arkansas. And
I regretted that pick. I told
you. The funny thing is you said that when you took the pick, you said, I'm going to regret this pick. And
right.
Sure enough,
I regretted it.
Yeah, you should have took Arkansas.
I should have.
The surprise pick of the entire board, though, in my opinion, was Liberty at Syracuse. I thought that was a lock.
I thought that was a lock, too.
I thought that was a guaranteed lock.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Liberty almost came back and won that game. They ended up losing by a field goal. They had the ball late, too. But
I thought they would have won by 14 or 21. I really thought it was not even going to be close.
I don't know. I don't know how that happened,
I
but
don't
you know,
either.
oh well.
Anyways. All right, so we're gonna start out with Georgia. Or you got the games right
I
in front
do
of
have
you?
the games
Okay,
right here.
Because I've just got my picks.
Actually, I don't have the. I was gonna write down the other two that we added. Just
I got them. Oh, I've got
before the show. Give me the first two we added moments before the show. I didn't-
Texas and TCU.
Okay, so Texas at TCU. Go ahead. I'm still like I'm.
You're real. Well, it's in Fort Worth, which is TCU.
Yeah.
I just think that Sarkisian, especially for recruiting purposes, needs a win in the state of Texas.
I think he needs it too.
Now, did they play Texas Tech last week? Is that right?
They played. Was it Texas Tech? Yeah, I believe it was Texas.
And
Tech.
they got a win, if I'm not
They
mistaken.
put up 70 on
Right.
Texas Tech.
Okay. Which is
but-
big, and that goes into my point. Texas is needing to win and win convincingly in the
Yeah.
state to pull those recruits not only from the state but from Oklahoma and surrounding areas.
I agree. I agree with that.
Because he wants the Texas to be the Texas brand. I don't think he puts up 70 on TCU by any means, but I do think Texas wins.
I think he has to have the win,
Right.
to really get some head steam on the program. I'm a coach guy, and there's a guy there at TCU that I think the world of that has a great ball coach in Gary Patterson.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
in Fort Worth, I'm taking TCU. TCU.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick them to get the upset here. Or I guess you call it an upset. They're not neither team's ranked, so I don't know.
Don't know the line on that one.
Texas is the 4-point favorite, so technically it's upset. But
Yeah, it is. Those
But it's
close
so
ones like that are
close,
so
yeah.
upset is. I'm using quotation marks, but upset on such a close line, I wouldn't call it an upset. So the other game that we just added, literally minutes before we started recording this, was it USC Colorado?
USC Colorado, yeah,
Okay.
and that's a tough one just for the fact that I've watched both teams play, and
I've not watched Colorado play. I've watched some of USC, and I'm just not. I'll be honest with you, I've not been impressed. Which of course they fired
I've not
the coach.
been impressed.
When you lose your coach, especially I think 2 games into the season, you're
Yeah.
going to reel anyways. But I'm going to take Colorado.
See, when we first put that game down, I thought Colorado, but the more I thought about this game, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Mine
Is-
is just I've watched USC and I've not been impressed. That's why I'm
You
going
know,
with Colorado.
how does USC? How do they look with the interim coach? How does that change? How they got Keontae Ingram, I think is his name, the running back, really good running back. How do they get him involved in the running game? Colorado looked good against A&M.
They did.
I think this is kind of along the same lines of what you were saying about Texas is building that brand back up. I think USC needs to win. I don't think they can afford to lose to Colorado for the brand.
Well, here's my thing about it, about the difference between the Texas game and the USC game. USC doesn't have their coach.
That's true.
So the interim coach is either coaching for his future there at USC, whether it be a head coach or just as a OC or DC. I can't remember what he was,
Right.
but just to stay with the program, or he's coaching for his life outside of USC. I don't know that he's trying to build the brand. Sarkisian is, and that's why I'm saying it means more to Sarkisian than it does to the guy at USC. So I'm picking Colorado.
I think I'm going to go just to try to gain some ground on you here, get that pick back. I think I'm going to go USC. I think I'm going to take the Trojans.
Are you taking them just to be different? Or are you taking them based off of name? That's my question.
Because
That's why I want to pick USC is just because of brand, but USC brand has not been for 10 more years. It's not been USC brand.
Yeah, I know. It's not. I'm just I don't know.
You're doing it to
I guess
make
I'm
up
trying to
ground.
gain some ground here. I'm trying to swing for the fences. I
You
don't
swing
know.
for the fences, but you also might put one in,
Yeah.
center field out in the game.
It could.
All right, so let's go ahead and get with our regular pick.
All right. We'll go ahead and open up with it. It's amazing to me that this is not the game of the week, but they were a game
Oh,
of
I
the week
know.
last week, so
Well, I get that.
And
I
they
get
were
why-
our
I
game
get
of the
why
week. They actually weren't the game day game of the week, which I think is crazy. Game of the week last week was Notre Dame, Wisconsin.
Right.
But anyways, First game is number 8 Arkansas at number 2 Georgia.
And see where the at
That's tough.
that makes
a
a
big deal.
difference. We talked about this already. Does Arkansas answer the bell? Do they come ready to play? And again, I don't know the line on this game. This is just a straight pick.
Georgia 16.5, which is
What?
crazy to me.
Oh my gosh!
Can I add that? I think I put that on my bets. I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy.
If I'm taking the line bet, I'm taking Arkansas to cover every day of the week.
Absolutely.
I might get burned on that, but I'm taking Arkansas to cover every day of the week. Straight line pick. I'm taking Georgia.
I'm not even wanting to put this graphic up right now because I'm gonna look nuts when I put this graphic up on Twitter and Facebook. But I really like what Sam Pittman's doing down there.
Oh, I do too.
I
do
like
too.
Browse. I like his creativity with the offense. Getting KJ Jefferson the ball, getting creating space on those play action passes to get to Burks, who I swear is an NFL ready receiver. Like he could play right now.
Right.
Hope he gets drafted to the Titans. But I like what they got going on. I like what what the defense is doing.
Mm-hmm.
I have faith in Georgia's defense. I don't have faith in their offense. So
I don't
for that
either.
reason, as crazy as it sounds, I'm picking Arkansas. Picking Arkansas to win.
It's
nuts. It's
No, I don't
nuts,
think it's nuts. I
but
think it can.
I'm taking it.
I think it can happen, and here's why. I think that Georgia is more balanced. I think, or Arkansas is more balanced. Georgia is more heavy on
Their
one side of the
defensive
ball.
heavy, yeah.
It's kind of like a seesaw.
Well,
You seesaw. Their defense is so heavy. They're so good. They're balanced out, and then the offense is so lightweight. They're not very good. They're stagnant.
Right.
That seesaw is one way, whereas Arkansas is a balance. Their offense is really good, but their defense is really good, and it balances them out. And they're They're just a good, solid football team. But I still think Georgia's defense is good enough to win the game.
It reminds me of the Alabama teams that Nick Saban had in his first few years there.
Yes.
When he had quarterbacks like John Parker Wilson and stuff like that, where their offense wasn't very they were good enough to put some points up here and there and
Right.
win some games that they should have won, but they really relied heavily on their defense.
Right.
That's what it reminds me of.
I agree 100%. Let's go ahead and move to the next one.
We have Louisville at number 24 Wake Forest. This one's kind of tough too.
Every bit of me wants to take Louisville.
I know
Every ounce of
I'm
me
the
wants
same
to
way.
take Louisville, but I just think Wake Forest is just good enough. And watching that Louisville Florida State game last week
Yeah.
made me this, and that's the reason I'm not going with Louisville is their offense is just not. They didn't move the ball when they needed to move the ball.
Right.
They did not get first downs. They gave Florida State every chance to win it, and they didn't. And I think if you do that against a decent Wake Forest team, Wake Forest is going to take advantage. They're going to score points. I think Wake Forest wins the game.
I've not looked at I wish I'd have pulled this stat up, but when's the last time Wake Forest was sitting at 4-0 and ranked?
I
don't know.
I can't remember.
I can't. We actually a few episodes way back, I think we used Wake Forest as a joke.
I don't doubt
in a
it.
segment, and I can't. But I just
doubt
can't
it.
believe we're sitting here looking at a number 24 Wake Forest that's 4-0.
Who's 4-0?
But I take them to win this week
Ranked above. I just realized it's above Clemson.
above Clemson. Yeah.
Wow.
I take them to win this week though. I think they beat Louisville.
I
At
do
home.
too.
Next game on the board, we have number 12 Ole Miss traveling to number 1
And
Alabama.
I want to take Lane Kiffin in this.
I know you want to.
I want to take Lane Kiffin. I just do. I just don't think his team plays good enough defense to stop a fairly good, not great, but fairly good Alabama offense. I'm taking Alabama to win.
I think they're going to put up a lot of points.
Oh, I think so
Early
too. I think so too. I think it'll be a very good ball game.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that his defense can keep the ball out of the end zone.
I agree. So I'm taking Alabama too.
What's the spread? Or do you know? You don't have it pulled up, do you?
I actually have it right here. It is Alabama by 14.5. Wait a second. Alabama has a less of a spread than Arkansas or Georgia over Arkansas. That's mind blowing to me.
I can
I think
see it. And here's
How
why.
is that? I feel like Arkansas is a more complete team than Ole Miss.
I agree, but I can also see
and I think Alabama's a better team than Georgia. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't know. I don't make those lines, though. I don't understand how those Vegas lines get made. I don't know where they.
Well, I guess
get based
I
on.
guess I can see it because I would take Arkansas to cover, but I would also say that Alabama would win by more than 14. I could see Alabama winning by more than 14.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So the next game on the board we have number 3 Oregon at Stanford, who's 2-2. But they look tough.
They don't
but
look bad. They're a pretty solid football team. I just think Oregon is just too good. I'm gonna take Oregon.
I really want to take Stanford right here, but here I've already taken.
You've
I've
already taken two
went
risky
against it.
picks.
Yeah, I've already taken 2 risky picks. But by golly, I wanted them to beat UCLA last week,
Oh,
and
I
they
did
couldn't
too.
get the job done. I think David Shaw has them guys ready to go this week.
You gonna do it?
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Stanford. I'm taking Stanford.
Taking
Gosh,
Stanford.
I'm taking Stanford.
All right.
Next on the board, gosh, if I end up with all those red X's, I'm going to be so upset with myself.
You're gonna be behind the 8 ball big time.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to have to really be swinging for the fences in. Number 10, Florida, travels on the road to undefeated Kentucky. Undefeated 4-0
Kentucky. But we've seen this in the past couple of years where Kentucky gets off to a hot start and they
pull a Kentucky.
and they fizzle. They just
They
yeah, you're
pull a
right.
Kentucky.
They they don't
Good
pull
old
a, you know,
Kentucky.
well, I'm gonna make a bandy joke, but
You know what's funny though? What's even like Tennessee fans get made fun of all the time, but every year we know we're still going to beat Kentucky. Yeah, we suck, but we're going to beat Kentucky.
we're gonna beat Kentucky.
And Kentucky, they're 4-0, and we're sitting at 2-2, but we're going to beat Kentucky.
I still feel like that's a later a
Yeah.
thought for
But
a later
anyway,
show, but
or we should beat Kentucky. That's just that must suck to be a Kentucky fan. But anyway, who you got?
I'm taking Florida.
Yeah, Florida all day. I don't think
Emory
Kentucky's
Jones
straight.
runs all day long.
Yeah,
on-
I agree.
on
I agree.
Kentucky.
Next game on the board, we have number 21. Both teams are undefeated here, which is pretty crazy too. Number 21 Baylor at number 19 Oklahoma State.
And I'm torn. I really am. I want to take Oklahoma State. I love their coach. I love what he does.
Oh wow,
He's a man.
you're about to
He's 40.
4. Yeah.
I'm gonna take Baylor.
Wow. Okay.
I'm gonna take Baylor
Don't
on
see
the
that
road.
coming.
I'm gonna take Baylor on the road to beat Oklahoma State.
I think Mike Gundy, like you said, he's a good ball coach. He's a tough coach to coach against, especially when he's at home.
Especially with
Oklahoma State and Stillwater is a tough team to
It is a
play.
tough place to play.
I'm taking Oklahoma State. I'm rolling with Coach
And
Gundy, and
This is a coin flip for me, and like I said last week,
Yeah.
I'm probably going to regret this pick. But
I
I'm
hope
gonna
you
take
do because I
Baylor.
need to gain some ground here. So I
I'm going
hope
to
you
take
do.
Baylor.
Next game on the board, we have number 22, and I say that loosely. Number 22 Auburn, 3-1 at LSU. also 3-1.
How are they ranked ahead of Clemson is beyond me.
I don't
But
know.
I'm taking LSU. I'm taking Ed Orgeron.
Dude,
Give me
listen.
that gumbo.
Exactly what I just said about Oklahoma State and Stillwater. Teams just have more juice when they're at home. And LSU,
Absolutely.
Death Valley is a place where you don't want to play. You
It's
don't
one of
want
the
to. You don't want to be the road team.
It's one of the
Death Valley.
top 10 places to play in my opinion. Especially, I mean, even when LSU is not very good, which
Right.
they've not been for the past 2 years, I'm still taking LSU in Death Valley
Right.
over an overrated Auburn team.
Well, this is still an LSU team that, like I said, I said before. I think it was last week or week before that I mentioned that Orgeron he's coaching for his job.
He absolutely
He's
is coaching for his job.
he's got a rough route to go
and
with these rest
and
of
if
these
he can beat
games.
a ranked team, an overrated ranked team, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
But if you can
ranked
go
on paper.
if you can go to your boosters and you can say I beat a ranked team,
Yeah,
that
It
does
adds to
wonders.
the resume.
That does
Um,
wonders.
But I'm taking LSU. I
am
think
too.
think Coach O has those guys ready to go.
I do too.
Next we have 3-1 Arizona State at number 20 UCLA. Everybody's wondering, is UCLA just going to keep rolling? Are they going to see a trip up? I thought the trip up was going to be last week. They had the one against Fresno State 2
Right.
weeks ago.
Right.
But who you got here? Who you like?
UCLA.
Same. UCLA is just
I don't see UCLA losing to Arizona State. I'm sorry. I'm
nobody
just not sold
saw
on
them
that
losing to
team.
Fresno either, though. But I'm with you, though. I don't think that
I
they
don't.
lose to Arizona State. Next we have undefeated number 14 Michigan at Wisconsin, who is sitting at 1-2, which is crazy if they're sitting at 1-2.
Okay, so
But if you look at the two losses that they have,
right,
they lost the opening game to a very good Penn State in a tight game. Then they lose last week in what was a tight game until a couple big plays changed the complexity of the game. Those are their two losses.
okay, so
Notre Dame and Penn State.
Here's my thing. Is when you talk about Wisconsin against Notre Dame, we've got our questions about Notre Dame. Are they real or are they not? And the final score, we've already said it. It really doesn't show the real tell of the tape on how the game went. But Wisconsin is a good team. I don't think they can get it done against Michigan. I think Harbaugh sees.
I think in fourth quarter, when the jump around kicks on, I think it's a different ball game. I get what you're saying. I had to throw that in there.
I was wondering what you was doing on your phone.
Yeah, I was waiting to throw it in.
But
did you notice that they actually played that at Soldier Field last week?
Yes.
And Notre Dame fans were ticked.
Oh, yeah.
The staff was ticked, which I don't blame them.
It's college football.
They're
they're the home team. They get that right. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with what you're saying. I think that this is a must-win. He can't afford to lose to a 1-2 Wisconsin team. Even if you do look at their two losses and you're like, okay, well, it's two tough losses. Everybody's looking at 1-2 on paper, and the fan base is looking at 1-2 on paper.
The same thing with Auburn. If Orgeron can beat a ranked team, it does wonders. Even
paper.
Even if it's an overrated and they end the season, not even going to a bowl. I'm talking about Auburn.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens, but I'm just saying, hey, I beat a ranked team. If you go in and you lose to a 1-2 Wisconsin team, even if Wisconsin ends the season ranked,
right,
you blew your opportunity. And that's why I'm saying Harbaugh is so determined, because this is his year. And I'm sorry, Michigan fans. This is his year to prove to any doubter that he can get it done at the college level. I just don't see that he loses. Could be wrong, but I think Michigan wins.
They've not been tested yet. And so I'm still not sure about, they're 4-0, they're number 14, but their 4 wins are against Western Michigan, who's not very good.
Right.
Washington, who does not look very good. The same Washington team that lost to, was it Montana, week 1 at home?
Yes.
I think it was Montana. It was an FCS team. I think it was Montana, but I could be wrong. They had a big win against Northern Illinois, who was not they aren't the same Northern Illinois back in 2013, 14, whenever they were in the Orange Bowl. I can't remember now.
Right.
They had a 7-point win at Rutgers. They were home against Rutgers last week. They've not had a team yet that is going to be dominant up front, that's going to play solid defense. I don't know enough about them yet to see if they've been tested. Now, if they come out this week and they win this game, then that tells you everything you know, and that says, okay, Michigan's on the right track. But this is a must-win because they have Nebraska, Northwestern, Michigan State, Indiana, Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State left. None of those games are gimme games. Every one of those games.
I would argue Northwestern is.
I don't know. I like Pat. Again, I'm a coach guy, but Pat Fitzgerald, his teams are always very tough. They're very physical, and it's not going to be one of those games. I'll tell you this: even if they get the win, even if they are going to get the win, it's not going to be a game that they're just going to coast through.
Oh,
they're going to have to.
Are you talking about Northwestern, or are you talking about Wisconsin?
I'm talking about the Northwestern game. They're going to have to fight for that win. They're not just going to blow them out. But
we'll see.
With that being said, though, I think Wisconsin gets it back on track. They're at home.
They are at home.
They're at home.
They are at home.
And I think that they get the ship righted and they upset Michigan.
Wow.
This week.
Okay.
That's what I think happens.
It'd be huge. It'd be huge for the Big Ten.
Be huge. And I need a big week because I've picked a couple upsets that I'm hoping happen. Game of the week.
Game of the week.
This is the game and this is actually a really good game. Going into the season,
this is another game. This is actually a great slate of games this weekend.
It really
this
is
one,
a
the
really
game
good
of the
week of college football. Another guy that watches the show, Cody Muse, texted me today and was like, "Man, exciting week of college football we're about to have." And I was like, "Yeah, we're like counting down the minutes, when school ends." But we have number 7 Cincinnati at number 9 Notre Dame, and I'm waiting to see what you say here. But I'm just amazed at how everybody is like, oh, I know who's going to win, guaranteed. I don't have to think about it. And everybody, I'm hearing
I
all
think
people say
that's
Cincinnati, and I think it's tough. I'm not saying Cincinnati can't win. Obviously, they're a great
Right.
football team. I just think it's tough that everybody's just like, oh, overlooking Notre Dame.
I'm not overlooking Notre Dame. I think they're a very good team, but I think that like I said earlier, the floodgates opened and things get easier when you get a special teams touchdown and a pick six.
That's true.
I mean, just simple as that. If you get a pick six or a kickoff return for a touchdown, and then you follow it up with a pick six, a 3 and out, and then you're back on offense,
Right.
you feel a lot better about yourself in a game that you struggled to score in. I mean, they had 10 points going into the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden the offense is looking at, man, we 14 more points and we didn't do anything. But I'm taking Cincinnati, but I'm not saying it's a light game for Cincinnati. I think it's a close game. I can see it being a field goal. I could see it being very, very tight. Last team to have the ball has a chance to win the ball game. I think Cincinnati gets it done.
And I said this was at Notre Dame. This is not a neutral site game, right? This is at Notre Dame. Are we for sure on that?
I don't know.
I'm trying to pull this
I
up while
don't
I'm
know.
talking here. Personally, it is. It's in South Bend. I think that's huge. I think that's a big thing. Cincinnati's
It
a
is.
10-point favorite, which I think, can you really even
There.
go by that? That's like nothing.
Well, and that goes what I said. I think it comes
Um,
down to a field goal or whoever has the ball out.
I agree. I'm taking Notre Dame, and this is the reason why I'm taking Notre Dame. If you had asked me
if
2
you
weeks
miss
ago,
if you miss on 3/4 of these,
I
you're
know,
hurt.
I know. But if you had asked me 2 weeks ago what I thought about Notre Dame, I would say overrated as usual.
Right.
I have
think
watched.
we said that.
I think I did say that. I have watched Notre Dame 3 weeks now.
Right.
Watched them against Florida State. I watched them against who was it? I watched them last week against Wisconsin, and I'm trying to think of who the other game was I watched them play. But I've watched them 3 times now on film, and that defense is the reason why. Like, that defense is, and I said this to somebody. It may have been you. I can't remember, but I was talking to somebody the other day in text, and I said this might honestly be the best defense that Brian Kelly's ever had since he's been there. And I
It wasn't me, but
fully
I agree.
believe that.
I agree.
And the reason for that is Marcus Freeman, that defensive coordinator that he hired. Marcus Freeman has just created. Like, I love his energy. Like,
absolutely.
he's invested.
Absolutely.
He's on the sideline. He's getting into it. Like, and he's doing a great job.
Mhm.
Like, he
Absolutely.
knows what he's doing. And I think the defense has been the reason that they have had this run.
Right.
And so I think the defense is huge. I think the offense is good enough to put up points.
Right.
Now the key is going to be who's the starting quarterback this week. Is Cone still out? Is that the replacement in?
I don't know.
Pine, I think's his name. That's going to be the key. But I think Notre Dame. I take Notre Dame to get the win.
All right. Now, last things last. Bets of the week.
Bets of the week. Okay,
Bets of the
I've got
week.
2 on here. Keith threw one on here that I agree with.
Surprisingly,
I agree with you more often than not, even though the picks don't show that.
not this week.
Yeah, not this week. Last week was a tough week.
For both of us, really.
Tough week.
Should not have picked Arkansas.
I should not have picked-
or A&M. I should have picked Arkansas.
I should not have picked Florida State. I picked Florida State money line. Picked Florida State, and they.
I told you.
Yeah,
told
you did. Yeah, you did.
At least on mine, I say I regretted it. You was just hard line.
Well, I thought that Florida State would have some type of energy, some type of fight. They did not.
Norvell does
They
not
had-
have that.
No, he does not. I don't see
Anyways.
how long he stays. But went 1 of 3. Memphis laid an egg. They actually at one point they were up 21-0, and I was like, easy money, easy pick. And then here comes UTSA and ends up beating them by what was it? Was it a field goal?
Thank you.
I think it was a field goal, and the
think
line
so.
was 3.5. 3.5. They missed it by 1 point, 4 essentially.
Yeah.
And they beat him by a field goal, missed it by 1, or well, actually no, they lost, so they.
It wouldn't have mattered.
Anyway, it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have
But I'm
mattered.
saying they beat him by 3. Yeah. Gosh, here I am. Anyways, sorry.
He's flustered.
Yeah, I'm flustered. Anyways, here's the bets of the week. So obviously LSU is a 3.5-point favorite over Auburn. I think that
I
all
think they
day
cover.
long.
I think they cover. I think it's a 10
Um,
point.
I'm
At least a
taking
10
LSU
point win.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. I'm taking LSU minus 3.5. Arkansas is a 17.5-point underdog to Georgia.
I don't think they win, but I think they cover.
I think they cover. I take Arkansas
Within
plus 17.
I think they have it within 10. Just to be honest.
I think so too. I think if it was 8.5, I think I'd take Arkansas. I think it comes down to like a field goal or something.
8.5 is more of where I would be like, that's close, because I think I said 9 earlier. So that's riding the fence for me. If it was 8.5, I probably would take Georgia. If you tell me 11.5, I'm probably taking Arkansas.
9.5.
Arkansas. I'm that
crazy.
I'm
One
that
point
close.
makes that big of a difference.
I'm that close.
But that is, it's a 2-score game, touchdown, field goal.
Right.
The last one, and this was Keith's, and the more I look at this, the more I kind of like it. I think I'm actually going to make this bet after the show. Duke is a 19.5-point underdog to North Carolina, and North Carolina they're having some problems
They
right
are having
now.
some problems.
Duke is looking
like
better
Cutcliffe.
than I thought they. They're still
like
not
Cutcliffe.
great, but they're looking better than I
They're
thought they
Duke. They're better than Vandy.
would. Yeah, ain't that the truth?
That's my comparison. Duke is to the ACC what Vandy is to the SEC.
Hey,
And
after this, I'm going to add a superlative pick for the,
Okay.
I want
okay,
Okay, so I guess that's what you call it. I don't even know if I use the right term there. But Duke is a 19.5-point underdog to North Carolina. We're taking Duke to cover plus 19.5 over North Carolina. I think that honestly, the more I look at it, the more
Duke
I like it.
winning, but I mean that point spread with that. I'm just saying I could see it, but I could definitely see them covering. I could see it being a 14-point.
With it being such a competitive rivalry,
right?
and as good as North Carolina is, or as talented as they are, I think
There's no
it'd
question
be
of talent.
hard pressed to say Duke could win the game, especially with it being in Chapel Hill. But now the point spread, I think it's going to be a tight game. I mean,
I could see it being
It's a rivalry.
2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns, but still that's 14.
That's still within.
That's still covering.
Yeah.
That's still covering.
So the reason I said, dude, just kind of, and I'm not going to add this to the board. I just want to hear your take on this. The game, one of the games this week, and it's kind of been a joke, and it really is a joke, I guess. People have been talking about the buying tickets to go to the UConn at Vanderbilt game in Nashville. I've seen tickets as low as $1. $1. And so, if you want to go, here's a game to go to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But UConn's 0-5, Vanderbilt sitting at 1-3. Who you got? Vanderbilt is a 14.5-point favorite. Who's your pick?
I'll take Vandy. I'll take Vandy. At least they know how to win. They've got a 1 win on the. I don't even
You
know
know
who they
what?
beat.
They
I'm assuming
who
like
have they beat? I'm gonna look that up while it wasn't
Po-
ETSU. We know it wasn't ETSU.
Podunk University,
Um,
East Mississippi, South State
they beat
Community College.
Colorado State.
Woo!
Wow,
Ooh,
they beat
okay.
Colorado State.
I'll take Vandy to cover. Vandy to cover.
All right, I'm gonna just to go
After
along.
that thumping they took from Georgia, I know it let some frustrations out on poor
Since
UConn.
it doesn't count, it's not on the board. To go along with the theme of the night, I'm gonna take UConn to get their first win. It's a 7:30 kickoff on This is on ESPNU. I can't believe this game is
I
televised.
can't either.
Who is not on TV
at that time slot?
over UConn and Vandy?
I would take Jacksonville State and
Gosh.
ETSU.
I would watch a high school game over UConn and Vandy. I'm just being honest.
Depends on who it is.
I would watch I would watch any high school game. I don't care.
Like you
who
tell me it
is.
was Maryville Alcoa, I would watch that over UConn Vandy. But if you're telling
Oh,
me
man.
it's the south side of the county versus Podunk University, I'd be like, I'll watch Vandy UConn.
I don't know. Like I tell you, there's got to be a lot more
Right.
FCS games, more exciting FCS games.
You
than
would
this
think so,
one.
especially at that time slot.
Yeah, at that time slot for sure. Who's Presbyterian got this week? Who's Coach Kelly playing?
He got thumped.
That
last
should
week.
be the 7:30 game.
He got thumped last week.
It was a tough team. That was a tough game.
It was a tough game.
It was tough.
I agree, but he got thumped. Anyways, that's it for us tonight, guys. We appreciate it. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube, like the video. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure that you leave us a thumbs up, leave us a review. We really do appreciate it. It really helps us out. Anyways, till next week. Appreciate it, guys. 3, 2, 1.